Fue el tiro que detuvo el tiempo, el momento que selló una leyenda para siempre. El 14 de junio de 1998, en Salt Lake City, el universo de la NBA fue testigo de lo imposible. Michael Jordan ejecutando el último acto de su carrera con los Bulls, en el instante más crítico, bajo la presión más insoportable y entregando la jugada perfecta. Sin embargo, detrás de esa canasta se esconde una historia que muy pocos conocen. Durante la temporada se estaba gestando una guerra interna que estaba a punto de explosionar, marcada por tensiones internas que amenazaron con destruirlo todo. Desde las declaraciones incendiarias de la gerencia que pusieron a la dinastía al borde del abismo.
Jerry Krause, the Bulls general manager, says, quote, "Organizations win titles, not players," end quote.
Quote that was attributed to you.
Well, as you know, David, there was a misquote. What I said was that players and coaches alone don't win championships, that organizations do. I do sincerely believe that organizations as a whole win. One part of it can't win alone.
15 players, those guys who work in the front office, they were good people. But the most important part of the process is the players. So for him to say that is offensive to the way that I approach the game.
Hasta el surgimiento de una nueva estrella que osó desafiar al rey.
The first time I was getting ready to face Jordan, I had a teammate. He goes to me and said, "Hey, you want some advice? Whatever you do, don't look him in the eye." Wait, excuse me? Why the hell would I not look him in the eye? I don't think my teammate understood that I'm that too. Can't look me in the eye either, buddy.
Y un camino en playoffs lleno de duelos brutales donde Chicago estuvo a punto de caer.
Gets it in the middle for the win. 4/10 of a second. One of the greatest clutch playoff performers of his generation has apparently...
El último baile fue mucho más que un eslogan. Fue una guerra emocional, física y estratégica, y su majestad lo sabía. Esta era su última oportunidad para sellar el legado más grande jamás visto en una cancha de baloncesto. Tras haber conquistado su quinto campeonato en 1997, el ambiente en los Chicago Bulls no era el de una dinastía celebrando su gloria. Era un equipo fracturado desde adentro, donde las tensiones entre los jugadores, el cuerpo técnico y la gerencia estaban a punto de estallar. En el centro de esta tormenta, Michael Jordan y Jerry Krause.
All the attention is going to Michael and Scotty and Dennis and Phil. And Krause was growing resentful about this. Krause was picked on an awful lot during this by Michael and Scotty.
I mean, they made fun of him. They mocked him. They mocked him openly.
Those are the pills you take to keep it short. Those diet pills.
Desde su regreso del primer retiro, Jordan ya mostraba un profundo desprecio por el director general del equipo. Lo culpaba por la manera en que había tratado a Scottie Pippen, quien durante años fue el socio perfecto en la cancha, pero que fuera de ella era uno de los jugadores más mal pagados de toda la liga.
Pippen is as underpaid gets, only the 122nd highest paid player in the league.
You know, from a financial standpoint, from a contract standpoint, he's locked in, and he very deserving of the same $30 million, 30 whatever I get in the next coming year. He's very deserving of the same contract.
One day we were on the bus, and Michael said from the back of the bus, "Jerry, you can go fishing tomorrow. They got a lot of lakes out here." He said, don't worry about it if you don't catch anything. You can always eat the bait.
A pesar de ser una superestrella indiscutida, cobraba apenas $2.8 millones por temporada, ubicándose en el puesto 122 del ranking salarial de la NBA. Y lo peor, la gerencia no solo se negaba a renegociar su contrato, sino que incluso consideraba seriamente intercambiarlo para otro equipo.
Do you think you're ever going to play for this team again? I don't.
I never, saw the day when I would have to turn the other cheek and go the other way. But,
Pippen started abusing Krause openly, cursing him out on the bus.
The 98 season, when Pippen was out injured and angry and asking to be traded, Krause was on the bus, and Pippen was drunk at the back, screaming at Jerry Krause to trade him, and it got really ugly.
There was always barbs going back and forth. But at a certain point, Scotty crossing the line. I mean, it was getting personal.
Esto fue combustible para el fuego. Jordan, furioso, empezó una guerra personal contra Krause, y no era una guerra silenciosa.
If you want to look at this from a business thing,
Have a sense of respect for the people who have laid the groundwork so that you can be a profitable organization.
Cada vez que tenía la oportunidad, ya sea en los entrenamientos, en el autobús o pasillos, lo ridiculizaba frente a todos con sarcasmo, burlas crueles y comentarios hirientes. Era su forma de marcar territorio y de dejar claro quién mandaba en ese vestuario. Pero los conflictos no terminaban ahí. Phil Jackson, el arquitecto silencioso detrás de la dinastía, también entró en una tensa negociación con Krause para continuar al frente del equipo. Tras semanas de tironeos, accedió a firmar un contrato de un solo año por $6 millones.
Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf has finally come to his senses, signing Phil Jackson to a one-year deal to return as coach next season.
Phil, from a contract standpoint, wanted to be compensated like the other coaches that he had beaten, and Jerry wasn't going to do that.
In Jerry's mind, you moved pieces in and out. You didn't move Michael Jordan pieces. Phil Jackson, yeah, you can move him in and out. And he was wrong about it.
Sin embargo, lo que realmente incendió todo fueron las declaraciones públicas de Krause, insinuando que ese sería el último año del entrenador. Para muchos, era una traición anunciada.
This will be Phil's last year as the coach of the Bulls. At the conclusion of the year, we'll look towards the future.
Jerry Krause and I were, really having difficulties working together. And Jerry really wanted me out, and he wanted to start over again and to begin anew.
I think it was a slap to the players on that team. And I think Michael took that very, very hard.
He's the greatest player ever. He deserved the credit, and yet from his perspective, here's Jerry Krause trying to get credit and saying organizations win championships.
Jordan, al escuchar esas palabras, fue tajante, dejando claro de que solo jugaría para Phil o por el contrario se retiraría del baloncesto. Y ese fue el principio del final.
If Phil's not back, then certainly I'm not back. So, it doesn't leave me with any other choices but not to play next year.
There's absolutely no room at all for you coming back under any other circumstances?
None at all.
Durante el Media Day, Phil Jackson lo oficializó. Llamó a la temporada 1997-98 el último baile, y con esas 3 palabras, activó un sentimiento colectivo de urgencia, de nostalgia anticipada. El vestuario lo entendió. Si este era el final, debían asegurarse de que fuese legendario.
And I hand out at the beginning of the season. I put in Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, The Last Dance. Now there's a question mark behind it in this.
He knew it was the last minute for him. So when he said Last Dance, although we bought into it, it was somewhere deep inside this little corner. I'm saying, nah, this is not it. We're going to win everything, and then everybody's going to be okay.
Our first meeting back from the summer, Phil passed out our handbooks for the year, and on the cover there it was, The Last Dance. And to think that this is the last season being together is a pretty heavy thing to think about.
I think we all knew going into that last season that was the end. So no one really screwed it up. It was going to be screwed up at the end, and we just have to accept that.
Pero no sería fácil. Scottie Pippen, aún resentido con la gerencia, decidió postergar su operación durante la temporada baja como forma de protesta. Se operó al inicio de la campaña, sabiendo que eso significaba dejar al equipo sin su presencia durante los primeros meses.
Scottie Pippen of the Bulls will be out for 2 to 3 months. It's an injury that's been bothering him dating back to the Eastern Conference Finals.
We were dealt with the deficit early on. That was Scottie Pippen being out. So we had to basically put our boots on and go out there and somehow find a way to survive.
Jordan, honestly, he was mentally like he was in 92, 93. Again, he was done, and he needed another break. Phil, titles that last season, 97, 98, The Last Dance, and we're going to do this last dance together.
The implications of not having him and needing him was quite obvious, and so it was a bitter pill to swallow.
El vacío que dejó fue inmenso. Sin su segundo al mando, Jordan tuvo que cargar con todo el peso del equipo desde el primer día.
This is one of the great challenge takers of all time, and we had Blitz in our game for a while, and he's going to be the first guy to step up to the plate.
Michael with
He just stepped to a higher level and somewhat put on that cape and, said, okay, I have to do whatever it takes.
Jordan has it. Top of the key. Moves up at the buzzer.
Los Bulls comenzaron tambaleantes, las dudas se multiplicaban, la magia parecía desvanecerse. Era evidente que Jordan, incluso con toda su grandeza, no podía hacerlo todo solo.
Final seconds. Jordan misses the three. Smitty the rebound.
Get it, Hawkins with 6. Dropped it low to Baker with 5. For the game. The shot. He got it with 3 seconds remaining in the game.
I remember one particular game in Cleveland where we lost by about 20 points, and Michael was saying in the locker room afterwards that he shouldn't have even come back, and I mean, it was ugly.
Ahí apareció Dennis Rodman. El impredecible, caótico y brillante gusano se volvió indispensable.
When Scotty left, I think Mike had a lot of confidence in me to knowing that I'm going to be there for him. I'm not going to let him down. I'm not going to let the team down. I'm going to let the city down. No.
Con su defensa feroz, su energía inagotable y su dominio en los tableros, fue clave para mantener a los Bulls a flote mientras esperaban el regreso de Pippen. Pero con Rodman, todo tenía fecha de vencimiento.
This is what held us together when Scotty was out. He had to really focus to make us as competitive as we were.
Hey, Dennis. Let me know when he's going to set a back screen on me. Set that screen right there so you just want me to open up and just hold him. If you have to switch out, switch out. I can stop Houston right there. The hoop's not turning around. I can stop him right there. I should catch up. When the clock was running down, he set that screen and veered over the top. Switch in that situation.
Tan pronto Pippen volvió de su lesión y el equipo comenzaba a estabilizarse.
Stripped by Pippen. Back he comes in transition. Dishes to Michael. Well, that's what Pippen was talking.
As for Weber, snowed by Pippen.
After missing 35 games, it gave me a great opportunity to really evaluate and see the value in what I could bring back to the team.
You're talking about a guy who's been on the all-defensive team for a number of years and is very proud of the fact that he can shut a guy down.
Scotty's return really picked up our spirits, and I think that's one of the reasons we started to play a lot better.
As for Weber, snowed by Pippen. Scottie Pippen in the passing lane again.
If you have one of your stars that has feelings like that, it'll just trickle down to the rest of the guys.
I warned everybody else in the league. I mean, basically said it, guys better get your leads now and get ahead of us now because when Scotty gets back, we could run the table.
Sin embargo, Dennis hizo algo inesperado.
When Dennis wants to tell me something, I know it's not something that I don't fucking want to hear. Dennis says, I need a vacation. And I look at Phil and say, Phil, what do you mean, vacation? He says he needs a vacation. He needs some time off to let loose. If anybody needs a fucking vacation, I need a vacation. We look at Dennis and say, Dennis, what are you going to do? He says, well, I need to go to Vegas. Can your vacation be like 48 hours? Go straight to the airport? Boom. They don't hear and see Dennis for 48 hours.
I went to the fucking Vegas.
Did Dennis come back on time?
Mm-mm. He didn't come back on time. We had to go get his ass out of bed. And I'm not going to say what's in his bed and where he was and blah, blah, blah.
There's a knock on the door. It's Michael Jordan. And I hid. I didn't want him to see me like that. So I'm just hiding behind the couch with covers over me. Come on, we gotta get to practice.
Pero en medio de ese caos, mientras el equipo intentaba recomponerse, surgía una nueva amenaza. Una joven estrella comenzaba a acaparar titulares y comparaciones con Jordan. Su nombre, Kobe Bryant. Y el destino muy pronto los pondría frente a frente.
So the level of fear that he inspired in others was insane. Wow. And I would tell him, I said, when I face him, we're going to go at it. He says, oh, you don't want to do that. I'm like, what? Man, you don't know me, man.
A medida que avanzaba la temporada de 1997-98, el nombre de Kobe Bryant comenzaba a sonar cada vez con más fuerza. Aunque apenas estaba en su segundo año, su talento, confianza desbordante y su estilo de juego habían capturado la atención del mundo del baloncesto.
And Dale was getting a lot of pressure to play Kobe, early on in Kobe's career that first year, but Dale didn't want to do it. He didn't think he was ready. So it was a little struggle for Kobe. But that second year, Kobe really didn't care. He was just determined. I always say myself, Cream gonna rise to the top. Cream gonna rise to the top. And Kobe knew he was that Cream. You know what I'm saying? he just kept going. He kept going. And then when you keep going and keep going, guess what? They accept it. And everybody started to realize, you know what? this boy finna be cold, man.
La prensa ya había encendido los motores de una narrativa poderosa. El joven Kobe era el heredero natural de Michael Jordan. Y con el All-Star Game a la vuelta de la esquina, la atención mediática se enfocó en un duelo muy particular, el del joven retador contra el rey del baloncesto. Lo que pocos sabían es que a Jordan le encantaban esos escenarios. Siempre había tenido un placer especial en humillar, controlar y dominar a cualquier joven promesa que los medios se atrevieran a comparar con él. Y Kobe, con su irreverencia juvenil, hambre competitiva y su descarada admiración, era la presa perfecta.
You want to play against Michael Jordan before he retires. He's only got probably 3 or 4 more years left, so.
I know he's an old guy. He's an old guy. But nah, you know, that'd be something that I love to do because, you know, I watched him growing up. I love to play against Magic Johnson, but now he's retired. And Michael Jordan is somebody that I've always looked up to, and I want to play against him.
El 17 de diciembre de 1997 plantó la semilla de la rivalidad. Los Lakers visitaron a los Bulls en el United Center. Esa noche, el público presenció algo especial, un duelo generacional cargado de intensidad, talento y competitividad.
You know, it was an ultimate challenge going out there and playing against the Bulls, you know, guard Michael Jordan. Nothing could top that.
Kobe, con apenas 19 años, no se achicó en ningún momento. Salió a jugar con la intención de medirse con su ídolo.
The first time I was getting ready to face Jordan, I had a teammate, he goes to me and said, hey, you want some advice? Whatever you do, don't look him in the eye. Wait, excuse me? Why the hell would I not look him in the eye? I don't think my teammate understood that I'm that too. Can't look me in the eye either, buddy.
Jordan, por su parte, mostró toda su experiencia y control, respondiendo a cada ataque con frialdad y maestría. Ambos anotaron más de 30 puntos, intercambiaron jugadas memorables y captaron todas las miradas.
He's now in a postgraduate course.
He has a chance to be what Michael is in this league. It's going to take him some time to get there, but he's up to the challenge and he's up to the test today, Bob.
Bryant is guarded by Michael Jordan, and the fall away by Kobe Bryant, and even Michael Jordan.
Pero lo que hizo de ese partido algo eterno ocurrió en el último cuarto. En una pausa, Kobe se acercó a Jordan con la naturalidad de un aprendiz curioso y le hizo una pregunta que quedó grabada en la memoria colectiva del mundo del baloncesto.
I told him you should feel the defense with your legs. Once you feel the defense with your legs, you more or less got to feel where the defense is, and you can take advantage of that.
You know, he gave me a great detailed answer. But on top of that, he said, if you ever need anything, give me a call.
Ese simple gesto en medio del juego dijo mucho más que 1000 palabras. Kobe no solo quería enfrentarlo, fue humilde y aprovechó la ocasión para extraer información valiosa y mejorar su juego. Sin embargo, esta historia apenas comienza, ya que lo ocurrido en el All-Star Game del 98 es recordado como uno de los matchups más legendarios en la historia del Partido de las Estrellas. El 8 de febrero de 1998, el Madison Square Garden, catedral del baloncesto mundial, se convirtió en el escenario perfecto para uno de los enfrentamientos más simbólicos en la historia de la NBA. Michael Jordan contra Kobe Bryant, el ídolo indiscutible contra el joven heredero. Con apenas 19 años, Kobe no solo era el jugador más joven en ser titular en un All-Star Game, sino que llegaba con una intención clara. No iba a quedarse a un lado, iba a ir directamente contra el mejor. Desde los días previos, la prensa ya había alimentado el morbo con una narrativa explosiva. El novato quería jugarle 1 contra 1 a Jordan, y su majestad, como era de esperarse, lo sabía. Jordan nunca dejó que el espectáculo lo distrajera de su objetivo principal, competir y dominar, por lo que tenía un mensaje para el atrevido novato, y se lo haría saber desde el salto inicial. El partido comenzó con una intensidad inusual para un evento de exhibición.
I'm just having fun. I'm having a good time. You know, Michael's a great player, one of the best players of all time. And you know, what better way to learn the game than going at him?
But you've issued a bit of a challenge, and he's got his pride up, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, me too. And that's how you play the game. And that's how I grew up playing the game, and I'm sure he did too, and every player out here as well. So and that's what makes this game interesting.
Now, there have been a couple of smiles exchanged between you two. Have there been any words?
No, not yet.
All right, Kobe. Good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
All right.
Jordan, por su parte, respondió con clase, precisión y autoridad. Cada vez que Kobe intentaba marcarlo, su majestad encontraba la manera de mostrarle que aún quedaba una brecha.
Plus the foul for Jordan, who now has 8 and a chance for 9.
But Michael told him, bring your A game. And if you don't bring your A game, I'm going to embarrass you.
Michael, get him on the low post right here, and then give him the fake.
I grew up watching Michael on TV, and now you got a chance to go face to face with him. You get a chance to really see and like touch and feel.
Here is Michael. Count it, plus the foul for Jordan.
Now everybody is excited about this showdown between you and Kobe. Now, how do you see it the first half?
First of all, I don't consider it a showdown, but I think that, we both are trying to do our job to entertain, and we're trying to play as hard and not try to isolate ourselves away from the rest of the players. So, I mean, in the mix of that, we will have our times where we go one-on-one, but I'm not going to try to do it too often because I don't want to take away from the other guys being here.
But you will not shy away from that isolation.
Oh, I will defend myself without a doubt.
Pero al mismo tiempo, no podía evitar ver en él una versión joven de sí mismo, ambicioso, competitivo y sin miedo.
I went and saw Phil Jackson in 1999 or maybe 2000. I don't know when Phil was here in L.A. And I walk in and Kobe's sitting there. And the first thing, I'm in a suit. First thing Kobe said, "Did you bring your shoes?" No, I wasn't thinking about playing. But his attitude to compete and play against someone he felt like he could enhance and improve his game with. To me, that's what I loved about the kid. Absolutely loved about the kid. No matter where he saw me, it was a challenge. And I admired him because his passion, you rarely see someone who's looking and trying to improve each and every day.
Ambos brillaron. Jordan finalizó como el máximo anotador del este con 23 puntos, 6 rebotes y 8 asistencias, llevándose el MVP del partido.
The hype was me against him, and I know I wasn't 100%, and he was biting at the bits, and I was just hopeful and glad that I was able to fight him.
He taught me a lot of stuff. He was, a great teacher and mentor for me. But Michael was very tactical and very efficient. And with his movements, there was no wasted space. There weren't any wasted dribbles. I mean, he was very surgical with how he approached the game. And you can see it. He made the game look so easy. It was very difficult to do.
Sin embargo, mientras la prensa y los aficionados se enfocaban en el choque generacional, una pregunta dominaba cada entrevista, cada rueda de prensa. ¿Este será el último año de Su Majestad? La posibilidad de que se retirara estaba en el aire. Nadie tenía la certeza excepto él, y aunque no lo confirmaba públicamente, su lenguaje corporal, sus palabras medidas y su concentración absoluta hacían evidente que este era su viaje final.
This is your last year?
It's very obvious that, they said that Phil's not coming back. He says wild horses couldn't drag him back. And I've always linked my career to that, so it isn't anything that's too surprising to you guys. And if Phil's treating it, and I'm pretty sure the management is treating this as Phil's last year, then I'm treating it as my last year.
Con el regreso de Scottie Pippen, los Bulls comenzaron a tomar ritmo nuevamente. El equipo se reorganizó y recuperó la confianza.
Give and go, Randy Brown to Longley from Kukoc. That is a textbook play by the Bulls. And there's a steal, and Harper with Clyde in for two. And Chicago leads.
Y a medida que la temporada se acercaba a su fin, cada estadio se convertía en un santuario. Las entradas se agotaban en cuestión de horas. Cada juego era tratado como un evento histórico.
Actions, fires. Jackson can't believe that. The putback is good from Whittington. Whoa, my goodness. Pippen forces it out, makes the three.
I can think of very few, if any, nights where you weren't excited to go into the building because there was so much energy everywhere you went.
It becomes a community celebration. Spring in Chicago is built around Bulls games.
My position as coach is, in a position that's this year terminated, and we've talked about that over the course of the year, and that's the way it stands as far as the owner and I are concerned.
Los fanáticos sabían que podían estar presenciando el adiós definitivo de la dinastía más dominante del deporte moderno. Y entonces llegó el 8 de marzo de 1998. Última parada en el Madison Square Garden, el templo del baloncesto. Para rendir tributo a ese escenario sagrado, Jordan hizo algo especial. Se calzó las Air Jordan 1, las mismas zapatillas con las que había debutado allí 14 años atrás.
Going into Madison Square Garden, this is the last time I'm going to be playing here. And that was my favorite place to play. Went back and grabbed the old pair of Jordan 1s
It's the first shoe I wore in the Garden. So this is going to be the last shoe, being that this is going to be the last time I play in the Garden.
Fue un gesto simbólico, una forma de honrar un estadio donde ya había escrito capítulos legendarios.
Yeah, I've always liked Madison Square Garden, even when I was in college, when we played St. John's or some of the games that we played. It's always been an area or a place where basketball enthusiasts could notice a fake basketball player. If you're a real basketball player, they honor that. They show the respect for that. If you're just a hype, you can't fool them, and they'll see it. And it's like stepping on stage with an act, and people can see that it's an act, or they can see that if it's talent. So that's the way I've always perceived Madison Square Garden.
Michael Jordan, on this being his last game, he says he doesn't want to say that this is his last game here in the Garden because that would not only be disrespectful to the Knicks, but also they may end up playing him again in the playoffs. Now, Isaiah talked about it being a love affair with Michael here in the Garden, and Michael says that because of that love affair, he's going to do something special. And that special something is wearing his original Air Jordan shoes. And he said he also hopes to give him about 55. Bob?
Anotó 42 puntos, se movió con la misma gracia y agresividad de sus años dorados, pero el precio fue alto. Sus pies sangraron durante el partido.
2 seconds to shoot over Houston. Got it.
That's nothing you can do about that.
From 15 in, Oakley can be effective. That was a bit outside his range. Jordan for three. Hitting only about 20% of his three-point tries this year, but feeling it tonight. This could develop into a terrific shootout between Houston, who's riding a hot streak the last few weeks, and Jordan. Michael hits again.
Well, I like what we're seeing here, Bob.
The basket by Houston a moment ago snapped the 9-0 Chicago run.
The pump fake by Jordan, and he brings them back to the right.
We've been talking about Michael's shoes, the ones they are wearing. Now, these are the original shoes. These aren't makeups. These are the ones that he wore about 10 years ago, and at that time he wore about a size 12 and a half. Isaiah was telling me the thing he was worried about is if the shoes turn out to be too small, because now Michael wears size 13 and a half. It's a nice gesture, but just in case it didn't work, he has these right here sitting on the side. See, those are the ones he's wearing. These are the ones that are in reserve just in case those toes start barking. Bob?
Aún así, no bajó el ritmo. Desplegó su ferocidad ofensiva con una elegancia que solo su majestad podía ofrecer.
Will fire again, and he'll hit to give him 23 points. Jordan guarded by Houston. Slithers through the lane and hits with the left hand.
See, he gives you something different to look at every time.
Unusual kind of makeshift lineup in there right now for the Knicks. Jordan gets the bounce as he just takes it right into a pack of people. Fade away. 33.
That was nice. He took the bump. Starks gave him a little knee in the...
Al final del juego, el público del Madison lo despidió de pie, con una ovación sentida, sabiendo que tal vez estaban viendo por última vez al más grande que jamás haya jugado este deporte.
But most of it remains, and an appreciative ovation for Jordan.
And the thing that I like most about what we've just seen is Phil Jackson's understanding for Jordan.
Now, what about the shoes? See, now this was a gesture for the New York crowd, and it's one that your feet probably weren't looking forward to.
Well, I was joking with my wife at home, and I said, you know what? We're going back to New York. Why not break out the new shoes, or the old shoes, actually? And, it's been a long time since I wore them, and it kind of, it's kind of fun to come back here and play and remember some of the old days and some of the things that, some of the games that I've had here, and the shoes is a part of that. So, my feet are killing me. But it was fun, though. It was fun.
I figured because, see, when you had those were 12, and you wear a 13 and a half now.
They shrunk a little bit. I think they have. But, it's fun. The shoes just mean shoes. I think you have to still go out and play the game. And, that's a big pressure to come out here with some new shoes and, making a statement, and still you got to play the game of basketball.
All right. Congratulations on a great game, man.
Pero mientras los homenajes llovían y la leyenda se agigantaba, la verdadera batalla apenas comenzaba. Los playoffs estaban a la vuelta de la esquina, y un simple grito, un momento insignificante en apariencia, iba a desatar algo dentro de Jordan que cambiaría todo. En la primera ronda, los Bulls se enfrentaron a los New Jersey Nets. El resultado fue categórico, barrida de 3-0. Chicago impuso su jerarquía desde el salto inicial. Jordan dominó cada posesión, como si estuviera enviando un mensaje a toda la liga.
Jordan with a feint on Kittles and hits. Michael Jordan now with 5 points. Michael Jordan working his way in the lane and hits. Now Kukoc. Jordan with a fake on Harris and a fall away. Michael Jordan working against Kittles. Gets Kittles in the air.
Pero, paradójicamente, la facilidad de esa victoria sembró una falsa sensación de control. Y sin darse cuenta, los Bulls comenzaron a relajarse justo cuando el camino iba a volverse más empinado. Las semifinales de la Conferencia Este de 1998 se enfrentaban los poderosos Chicago Bulls contra los Charlotte Hornets. El primer partido fue una demostración de dominio, una victoria cómoda para los Bulls que reafirmaba su condición de favoritos.
Got it! Now it's Michael. Spinning, shooting over Wesley, and there's his first basket.
Great pass to Rodman from Jordan. Oh, what a beautiful pass.
Sin embargo, en el segundo encuentro, B.J. Armstrong surgió como el inesperado protagonista. Saliendo desde la banca, desplegó su mejor juego ofensivo y sorprendió a un equipo de los Bulls que no mostraba su habitual intensidad.
Hustling him early. And B.J. Armstrong pushing it up, guarded by Kerr. And now B.J. Armstrong, the former Chicago Bull, hits a...
Con una actuación sobresaliente, Armstrong lideró a los Hornets en un juego cerrado. Pero lo más recordado no fue su rendimiento, sino su provocación final.
B.J. Armstrong, the former Chicago Bull, hits a basket by Divac, and here's Armstrong trying to push it up again. Comes into a pick by Longley, and Armstrong hits, and now the Hornets can't miss as Phil Jackson...
You know, there was kind of an unwritten thing. You didn't talk trash to the best players. Well, what's the point of playing if you're not going to challenge the best? I didn't. As a kid, I had a dream of playing against the best players. That was my dream. And playing with Michael, I kind of knew how to attack them. I knew how to do certain things. Now, that may work for one game, which it did, and I felt pretty good about that one game.
A falta de segundos para el final, tras encestar el tiro que aseguraba la victoria, Armstrong celebró con un grito eufórico, el puño en alto y la mirada desafiante hacia el banquillo de los Bulls. Un gesto que rompió todos los códigos no escritos de respeto entre antiguos compañeros.
BJ had a lot of motivation. You have to expect that. He once played here. His energy was I think, pulled Charlotte through this game. I wouldn't expect anything less.
You're dealing with someone who's an ultimate competitor. He understood what needed to be done, and he had a great understanding of the game. Not only physically could he overwhelm you, but intellectually, mentally, he was going to challenge you in every way possible. So I felt the challenge was a great opportunity to play not only with him all those years, but against them and see everything that I had learned by being in those Bull uniforms, being in those locker rooms, would it actually work? So I just accepted the challenge. That was the league. That was the environment in which we all played with back then. You came, you played, and you lived with the results. So competition was something that we all thrived in. That was the environment, and you go out there and you play, and you play to the best of your ability.
Para Michael Jordan no fue una simple celebración, fue un desaire personal, una herida abierta en su orgullo. Y para alguien como Jordan, esa afrenta exigía una respuesta inmediata.
He constructed reasons to play hard that night. These little slights were deep indignations to him. That's all he needs. I mean, that's like throwing meat to a tiger.
A good competitor always evaluates his opponent. And you understand for what he really is, but you never try to give him confidence. You try to take it at all times. And sometimes it's easier to take confidence and sometimes it's harder. But mentally, I got to find a way. And sometimes you have to trick yourself.
Let's see if all that trash talking starts when it's 0-0 instead of 5-6 point lead. That's where it starts.
Desde ese momento, Su Majestad se juró no permitir más humillaciones. Para cumplir su misión, pidió encargarse personalmente de marcar a Armstrong desde el salto inicial.
If you're gonna high five, talk trash, now I had a bone to pick with you. You know, I'm supposed to kill this guy. You know, I'm supposed to dominate this guy. And from that point on, I did.
He came after me in the rest of the series, especially that next game.
En el tercer partido, Jordan salió a la cancha como un hombre poseído.
Up his dribble, pressured by Michael. Strong. Top of the circle. Michael all over him. Armstrong nowhere to go.
Jordan with a turnaround over Armstrong. He knew he had him. So the Hornets take Armstrong off of Jordan momentarily.
BJ hitting that shot and staring the whole bench down and whatnot, it just didn't sit well with Michael. And we knew. We have woke Michael Jordan up.
Tomó el control absoluto desde el primer minuto, liderando una demolición sin piedad de las esperanzas de los Hornets.
There's no strength factor. Michael is not going to learn a 2-point edge for Chicago. Michael Jordan trying to use a screen from Luke Long, and he does. And building teams in the league. You get that and get it out. You can score on them. Michael Jordan with 10 points. Michael is not only once before that last sequence. Michael Jordan with a high arcing shot. Jordan with 12. You don't think they're going to get him. Michael Jordan, high arcing shot off the glass as Jordan plays David Wesley at point guard for the Hornets. Here's Michael Jordan with the jumper. He's got Pippen in the open floor, guarded by Glenn Rice. Here is Jordan with a turnaround over he was in game 2.
You need the looks, and you need to get in a groove. And speaking of a groove, this guy is in one.
Jordan trying to do it and does. 70-55, a 15-point lead. Timeout called by the Hornets. Mike,
I think BJ kind of forgot, about us. What drives us. We utilized that energy that he used at the end of game 2 to our advantage. And we're good at that. So, he woke us up.
I remember after the series, because they beat us that series, I remember Michael coming over and saying, you know what, I respect that. And I needed that. So competition is why you play, and I learned that from him, to be honest with you. He would always say, hey, if you're going to show up, show up. If you're going to do it, do it. I can always live with a loss, but I can't live without trying. So yes, I knew what I was doing. He knew what I was doing, and he was better. He was supposed to do it. But however, it would have been a great story if I could sit up here and say that I beat him. And I learned more.
Al final, los Bulls se impusieron con autoridad ganando la serie 4-1. El siguiente obstáculo no era un equipo cualquiera. Eran los Indiana Pacers de Reggie Miller. Un equipo completo, físico y hambriento, con todas las piezas necesarias para destronar de una vez por todas a los legendarios Bulls. Mayo de 1998. Los Chicago Bulls buscaban su segundo three-peat y su sexto campeonato en 8 años, pero antes de llegar a las finales, tenían que superar un obstáculo inesperadamente difícil, los Indiana Pacers.
What I've always been waiting for to go against Michael. This is what I've always wanted.
Esta no era una serie cualquiera. De todas las batallas que enfrentó Michael Jordan en su carrera, solo 2 veces fue llevado a un séptimo juego en los playoffs, y esta fue una de ellas.
Because that series was so iconic. That's only one of 2 times that the Bulls were brought to 7 games in all their championship runs. And if you talk to those guys now, I think Wennington said in the show, that was the hardest series. And Michael said that besides the Pistons, those Pacers teams were the hardest teams that we had to beat. So they had enormous respect for these guys. I knew that going in, that they had enormous respect for the Pacers, especially of that season. And that there were so many moments in that series.
Liderados por Reggie Miller, los Pacers no eran solo un equipo talentoso, eran un equipo sin miedo.
But for some reason, I think my style at times irritated him because I was in constant motion. He used his power to control players and to keep them where he wanted them.
He had great torque.
Yes, he did.
Just the way
and let me say this about Michael. Probably, if not one of the smartest basketball players. You talk about his ability to be athletic and all that, but he was a very smart basketball player.
He thought the game through.
Yes.
You thought the game through.
And he knew what your weaknesses were, and he tried to exploit them.
If I had to pick a team that gave us the toughest time in the East, Indiana was probably the toughest outside of Detroit. They were tough. Every time I go in that fucking game and come out, I got a new scratch. It became personal with me.
En el juego 4, con la serie 2-1 a favor de los Bulls, Miller tuvo su momento más grande. Los Bulls tenían la ventaja por 1 punto y con 2 segundos en el reloj para terminar el partido. Solo necesitaban una última defensa para colocar la serie 3-1. Pero Reggie no estaba dispuesto a que eso ocurriera en su casa.
In that particular play, I was so upset that Chicago had come back because I thought we had control of that game. the whole way, and Steve and Scotty and Steve were fantastic down the stretch, and I was so upset that they had taken the lead.
Reggie Miller, con toda la confianza del mundo, empujó ligeramente a Jordan para crear espacio. Un movimiento sutil, pero suficiente para encestar uno de los triples más icónicos en la historia de los playoffs.
I remember when Larry was drawing the play, I was thinking, put all the pressure on the official to make a call. I knew they were going to switch and MJ was going to be on me, so I just went right to his chest and lightly shoved him a little bit, and the rest was history.
He craved the big moment. He would make a small moment a big moment. And for me to watch him do incredible things.
He loved the big games. He loved the playoffs or the big marquee matchups against his arch rival, whether it was Michael Jordan or somebody or the Knicks. He got up. The bigger the game, the bigger Reggie Miller would perform and play, the better. And this guy was just unstoppable.
Pero el juego aún no había terminado. Todavía quedaban 0,7 segundos en el reloj y Larry Bird lo sabía mejor que nadie. Mientras el público estaba en medio de la celebración, Bird mantuvo la calma con una mirada estoica legendaria a sabiendas de que esto estaba lejos de terminar. Tony Kukoc pasa el balón desde la línea de saque a Jordan, lanza en suspensión y el estadio contiene el aliento. Pero falla y los Pacers colocan la serie a 2 victorias por bando.
And it's 2-2. Unbelievable.
He may have been devastated that night, and I assume he was. But he had the ability to believe that we were going to win and he was going to do well.
If we sit here and worry about what people think of us, then we don't have a chance. You still got to come through Chicago. Utah, Indiana, they still got to come to Chicago. I don't care what happens today, I don't care what happened in the other series. Still got to come through Chicago. We will win Game 7.
But there was clearly tension in that locker room before Game 7 because, I remember watching that and being nervous. Like, this could be the last time we ever get to see Michael Jordan play basketball. And it went through his head. But normally that office is loose. He's handing out tickets to people. There's visitors coming in. They're joking with each other. The TV's on. This was like, as they said, nut crunching time. And you could barely hear a pin drop in that office. So to see that footage, it just kind of underlined like how tense this was.
La serie llegaría a un 7º partido, el último enfrentamiento de una guerra brutal. Para los Bulls, perder significaba el fin de una dinastía. Para los Pacers era la oportunidad de destronar al más grande de todos los tiempos y hacer historia. Fue una batalla de nervios. Durante 3 cuartos, los Pacers dieron pelea y dominaron casi en todo el trayecto del encuentro. Pero en el último cuarto, cuando el momento era más grande, lo fue también Michael Jordan. Con 28 puntos, capturó 9 rebotes y repartió 8 asistencias. Su majestad selló el destino de los Pacers.
Here comes Smith on a drive. He got inside. Shot is good. And a foul.
And on to the finals. For the 6th time in 8 years, go the Chicago Bulls. But what Michael Jordan termed a bump in the road was anything but.
He's the type of man that could get you to jump off a bridge, or at least think about it for a few seconds. He has such a will to accomplish a mission that everyone follows him.
Sin embargo, aún faltaba el último acto en esta epopeya por la gloria. Los Utah Jazz los esperaban en las finales. Mismo rival, mismo escenario. Pero esta vez no había margen de error. Era ahora o nunca. Las finales de 1998 fue una reedición de la anterior. Los Utah Jazz, con su juego metódico, su disciplina y su hambre de redención contra los Chicago Bulls, una dinastía que luchaba por un último aliento de grandeza. Y como si el destino escribiera en círculo, el primer capítulo comenzó en Salt Lake City. El juego 1 fue una batalla tensa de principio a fin.
Hands the turnaround. Good look. Pippen stutter step into the lane. Lays it up and in.
Nicely done. He knifed right by Karl Malone. Stockton penetrates on Kerr. Takes him to the glass. The floater's good. On the run. This is going to be a terrific series.
Ambos equipos intercambiaron golpes durante 4 cuartos sin ceder terreno.
The 4-on-1 break. Isley to Anderson.
Hornacek, great pass to Malone. Rodman was just...
Beat the Bulls. Beat the Bulls. But first, you have to stop Michael Jordan. But how about that one? As Jordan whirls through the defense.
Y en tiempo extra, los Jazz se impusieron con sangre fría, robando el primer suspiro de la serie.
John Stockton closed the door for Utah in overtime and goes up on Chicago in game 1.
We have confidence in ourselves. You think I'm just back in the finals again just to be here? You know, I'm back to win a championship. And it's going to be tough, but I'm looking forward to the challenge.
El juego 2 fue igual de cerrado. Tanto el Jazz como los Bulls estaban dando todo por intentar llevarse la victoria.
The run, air ball, Jordan there to clean up the mess.
Hornacek threw it away. Rodman ahead to Jordan. And Michael brings it back and jams it home for their biggest lead, 61-53.
Chicago right now senses the kill.
Hornacek with room and with two. Hornacek, spinning move.
See, I love Jeff Hornacek as a player. I mean, he's gritty, he's gutsy.
Sin embargo, Chicago se empleó bien a fondo, logrando llevarse la victoria de forma dramática en los últimos segundos para empatar la serie a 1 por bando.
No! Got his own rebound! Michael hits it, and Chicago reclaims the lead.
What an unbelievable sequence of plays!
Y entonces llegó el tercer partido, un encuentro que, en vez de ser otra guerra táctica, se convirtió en una humillación histórica. Los Bulls aplastaron a los Jazz con un margen de 42 puntos, estableciendo el mayor diferencial de victoria jamás visto en unas finales. Fue un mensaje demoledor. De esta manera, los Bulls logran tomar la delantera en la serie 2-1.
Harper the slam. Michael spins on Hornacek to the left hand, an absolute beauty.
Bulls running away. They're up 60-38.
Jordan to the hole. Wrapped up by Ostertag, and somehow, some way, he scores. Total humiliation.
This is actually the score? Is this the final? Seemed like they scored 196.
Pero Utah no pensaba rendirse. En el cuarto partido salieron decididos a empatar la serie. Empezaron con intensidad, agresividad y un ritmo imponente. A pesar de la embestida del Jazz, los Bulls respondieron con su arma más letal, la defensa.
Harper dives for it. Stockton and Harper. Harper's got it. Turn it over.
Dennis Rodman, quien había estado en el centro de las críticas por su comportamiento, se transformó en un pilar en los minutos finales. No solo reboteó y defendió, encestó 2 tiros libres decisivos claves para asegurar la victoria y de esta manera colocarse a una victoria del campeonato.
You can't be afraid to face the reality of not winning.
Oh, did it? Rodman at that free throw line right now. Makes it.
So it didn't faze me at all. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't jittery. You got to go out there and do the job.
In the air. Good again. How about that?
Con el quinto partido en casa y la oportunidad de cerrar la serie ante su público, los Bulls salieron con fuego. Tony Kukoc lideró el ataque en los primeros compases del partido, y por momentos parecía que la celebración era inminente.
Plus a foul. Jordan to Kukoc. Kukoc inside. Another chance for a three-point play. Kukoc getting off early. Kukoc. And he now has 10. Kukoc for the tie. He has all but one of Chicago's points.
Pero Karl Malone no lo iba a permitir. El cartero desató todo su arsenal ofensivo, tiros en suspensión, juego de espaldas, rebotes ofensivos. Estaba dispuesto a hacer todo lo que fuera necesario para forzar un sexto partido en Salt Lake City.
Over Rodman. Hits the jumper. That was an aggressive move. Malone. Over Rodman and got it. This is what he has to do.
Antes de finalizar el encuentro, a falta de un segundo por jugar, los Bulls estaban abajo por 2. Jordan tenía una última oportunidad para darle la victoria a su equipo, pero el balón ni tocó el aro, forzando el Jazz un sexto partido en su casa.
Rip up the headlines. It is very much a series.
Y como si el universo lo hubiera planeado así, todo iba a decidirse en territorio enemigo. Pero esa noche, la historia no estaba terminada. Todavía faltaba el tiro más legendario de todos. 14 de junio de 1998. Salt Lake City. El sexto partido de las finales. Los Bulls tenían la oportunidad de coronarse campeones por tercera vez consecutiva, pero desde el primer segundo el destino quiso complicarlo todo. Scottie Pippen, que había estado lidiando con espasmos musculares durante toda la serie, sintió un dolor agudo en la espalda tras su primer salto a canasta. Apenas podía mantenerse en pie. Cada movimiento era una tortura. Y sin su escudero habitual, Michael Jordan entendió que estaba solo.
And the start of that game, I got a dunk early in the game and got banged a little bit by Malone. And that really put me back on my heels throughout that whole game, where I was running back in the locker room, cortisone, whatever kind of medication I could get in me, heat pack, whatever, to try to carry on. But I definitely was not able to play a Game 7.
El Jazz aprovechó la situación. Tomaron ventaja en el marcador, impulsados por su público, sabiendo que esta era su oportunidad de forzar un séptimo juego. Pero Jordan no iba a rendirse. Una vez más, cargó con todo el peso del equipo, minuto tras minuto, canasta tras canasta, posesión tras posesión, manteniendo a los Bulls vivos a puro corazón.
Jordan wheels inside around Anderson, and again it's a two-point game. Jordan, daylight for three.
Michael feels right now he can make every shot he...
En la segunda mitad, contra todo pronóstico, Pippen regresó. No estaba al 100%, ni siquiera al 50%, pero volvió.
Here's my breakdown on that. I'm going to ask you this.
All right.
Is it easier to play with a herniated disc or to play with the flu?
They always say the worst injury to have is a bad back. So,
well, I don't see many bad back games, but I do see flu games. Flu. Come on.
El partido se transformó en una guerra de voluntades. Ningún equipo cedía. Cada posesión era una batalla.
Jumper by Carl. Utah back in seconds to shoot. Harper's not the guy they want to have do it, but he has to. And he beats the shot clock.
Y cuando todo parecía encaminarse a un cierre dramático, John Stockton clavó un triple demoledor.
Cross-court Stockton, a three. It's there.
Stockton with a cold-blooded three, and Utah takes the lead.
Con 41 segundos en el reloj, ocurriría una de las secuencias más icónicas y legendarias jamás vistas en unas finales.
Guys, this is a scary situation. This game should be dead meat.
Michael Jordan, at this advanced stage of his career, has to carry the team. He has to play extra minutes in a grueling series. And that last sequence in the final half minute plus is one of the greatest sequences you'll ever see in any sport.
Pippen into Jordan. Michael working on Russell. Brings them to within one.
When they made a layup and he went back down, I knew they were going to run that pattern and play through Karl Malone.
They ran that play a couple times prior. And Dennis and Malone have been fighting all game. And Karl just totally forgot that I was on the weak side.
With 43. Malone is doubled. They swat at it and steal it.
What about the last shot you ever took as a member of the Chicago Bulls? The last shot.
What was that shot?
Game 6.
Utah.
Here comes Chicago. 17 seconds.
I practice as if I'm playing a game. So when the moment comes in the game, it's not new to me. That's the beauty of the game of basketball. That's the reason why you practice. That's the effort. So when you get to that moment, you don't have to think. Instinctively, things happen.
17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan. Open. Chicago with the lead. Timeout, Utah. 5.2 seconds left.
Now, as he gets Brian Russell with a quick crossover. Look at Brian Russell slips, and Michael pulls up and buries the shot to give him a 1-point lead.
That may have been. Who knows what will unfold in the next several months. But that may have been the last shot Michael Jordan will ever take in the NBA.
Watch Jordan's left hand here as he gives Russell the push. The referee can't see that. Jordan frees himself up for a clean look. The greatest thing about Jordan is he has all the tricks. That's why it's so difficult to guard him.
If that's the last image of Michael...
Quedan 5.2 segundos. El Jazz tiene una última oportunidad. El balón va a manos de John Stockton. Toma el tiro desde el perímetro y falla. Cuando el reloj llegó a 0, los Bulls se coronaron campeones por sexta ocasión.
Have won their 6th NBA championship and it's their second three-peat.
It goes back to the actual beginning. You know, my career actually began on a shot, you know, to win a championship in 1982. In essence of who Michael Jordan became.
Michael Jordan!
And who Michael Jordan was ended with that shot in 1998.
Oh my God, that was beautiful. What a finish.
I never gave up. Every time we were close, I knew we were going to do it. I knew it.
Pero mientras la ciudad celebraba en los pasillos del vestuario, la sensación era distinta. No era euforia, era resignación. Todos lo sabían. Este era el final.
Well, for Bulls fans, there is, of course, cause for celebration tonight after a sixth championship that came harder than the others. But there's some anxiousness mixed in as well. Who knows how all of this will play out, but it's certainly possible that tonight we saw the last of the Chicago Bulls as we have known them. And whether it ends here or sometime in the near future, it'll be noteworthy not just for the breakup of one of the great teams in sports history, but because given the present structure of pro sports, it may be quite a while before we see anything like this again.
A lot of things that go into it that made this team as probably united or as collectively as together as any team's been in the last 25 years in professional basketball.
My career started here as Wallace Field back in 1987, and we came here to join along with Michael, and our relationship has just continued to bond from that point, and we've grown to have more of a friendship as well as a basketball relationship.
The most things that I will remember about this team is how we've been able to connect mentally as well as physically on the basketball court each and every night. That is special, and that's something that you have to remember.
Las tensiones con la gerencia no desaparecieron con el trofeo. Jerry Krause ya tenía planes para desmantelar el equipo. Phil Jackson no regresaría. Scottie Pippen sería traspasado y Dennis Rodman fue a otro destino.
It was a very sad situation because never lost in the finals. I never knew what it felt like. At least if you're gonna be king of the hill,
be the king till you're not the king.
Until somebody knock you down, then you can shake the hand and say, you enjoy it. Now you're going to see how difficult it is. Right. You know? But that never happened. Now we have to live the rest of our lives with this idea that, wow, we could have won 7, or we could have won 8, or we could have won 9, you know, the LeBron thing, but we were halfway there. So right. We could have done all that, you know, but for whatever reason, it wasn't meant to be.
I would probably say at least 2.
Okay.
I would say at least 2. I would have loved to have challenged ourselves to a point to where someone could defeat us. Mm-hmm. The teams that were giving us the most trouble, Utah Jazz meaning, sure, and more in the finals, they were just as old or older than us, right, which gives me the sense that we probably could have ran a couple, 3 more years in terms of teams that we could beat on the West Coast.
Y el propio Jordan haría lo que era un secreto a voces desde el inicio de la temporada del 98. El 13 de enero de 1999, Su Majestad anunció oficialmente su retiro del baloncesto. Así terminó la historia de una de las dinastías más dominantes que la NBA haya visto jamás.
Michael Jordan time. Did not have the shot. 5 seconds remaining. The Chicago Bulls have won their 5th championship in the last 7 years.
It really became the most amazing phenomenon in the history of American sports.
Y todos pensaron que esa era la última página del libro de Su Majestad. Pero estaban equivocados, porque 3 años después, Michael Jordan hizo lo impensado. Volvió. ¿Por qué regresó? ¿Qué buscaba en Washington? ¿Y cómo fue realmente esa etapa que muchos prefieren olvidar, pero que reveló una nueva cara del GOAT? Descubre la historia oculta detrás del renacer de la leyenda haciendo clic en el video que aparece en pantalla.